Premier League and football fans. Welcome to the Unite for VAR podcast. A refereeing fiasco. Arsenal versus Huddersfield. There was a time when English refereeing was the gold standard for the entire football world. I am old enough to remember when figures like Jack Taylor, David Ellery, and Keith Hackett were treated with reverence as referees of unquestioned integrity. They could be trusted to blow the whistle without fear or favor. Imagine the elephantine balls it took for Jack Taylor to award two penalties in the first 30 minutes of the 1974 World Cup final. And they were the first ever penalties awarded in a final. How do you spell cojones? Matters have now reached a sorry state where not even one English referee made FIFA's roster to officiate in the 2018 World Cup finals. How low have the mighty fallen? Since I began my research into PL refereeing, there is no doubt in my mind that the current demise in the reputation of English referees has coincided with the emergence of the PGMOL as a subsidiary of the Premier League. Previously, they were controlled by the FA and in the service of the entire football family, from the mightiest to the lowliest. Now the referees are simply an arm of a privately run league that comprises the biggest and richest clubs in the country. According to the Premier League, their main objective is to become, quote, the most competitive and compelling league in the world. Once the PGMOL became 90% financially controlled by the PL, up to having their offices in the league headquarters in London, it became subservient to their mission, which has nothing to do with applying the FIFA rules fairly and squarely. Former PGMOL referee Mark Halsey confirms this in his book Added Time. Quote, there is clearly potential for conflict and vested interest here with the people who administer our own organization vulnerable to pressure from the Premier League, who have their ideas on how games should be handled, and that filters down to us. You could see down the years that certain managers can put pressure on the Premier League to make sure the PGMOL is run in a certain way and games refereed under that system. And for example, we knew we weren't going to get a proper apology from Chelsea for the way Mark Clattenburg was treated. The Premier League was always going to side with the stakeholders, that is, the clubs, unquote. Now, Halsey, who came under serious legal pressure from the PGMOL, and by implication from the Premier League, to not have his book published, admitted publicly he had to leave out some details if it was to see the light of day. But it is easy to identify the biggest stakeholders who hold serious clout in the Premier League. They have traditionally been the big northern clubs such as Manchester United and Liverpool. But of late, they have been joined by Manchester City and Chelsea, who literally brought their way into the league. Arsenal, despite its many historic successes in the league over its more than 100 years of existence, never had the leverage in the PL that Manchester United has traditionally had. Is it any wonder that Mike Riley and his cronies could repeatedly screw over Arsenal and Arsene Wenger in his last 12 years as manager without any fear of serious repercussions? Post-Wenger, has anything really changed? Take Saturday's game against Huddersfield as our most recent example. We have the case of Riley sending one of his young Turks to referee his first top-flight game at the Emirates, and it was evident after 15 minutes he was badly out of his depth. But he evidently felt no fear of any negative consequences to his career prospects for awarding 5 yellow cards against the Gunners in a game where Huddersfield was clearly the more aggressive team, conceding 20 fouls versus 13. Yet we continue to have naive people refusing to even admit what Halsey disclosed, that the conflict of interest between the PL and PGMOL makes the people who administer the PGMOL vulnerable to pressure from the Premier League. Going by the shambolic performance of young Mr. Tierney, refereeing standards under the PGMOL could fall much farther. This has been Shatter. You can support my work at uniteforvar.com and on Twitter at Unite4, that is 4VAR. Truth and rights, every time.